Hello and welcome to week 28. Today we will be doing our last review of our 16th note combinations, and we will be looking at all 16 of them together today, which means that starting next week we will be actually incorporating these combinations into our usual two-handed warm-ups. For today's minor 7th drill, we'll continue on with F sharp minor 7, D flat minor 7, and A flat minor 7, as well as their accompanying Dorian modes. And then we're going to be looking at a 4-part writing today that I wrote, The Forest for the Trees, which is going to use a lot of common practice progressions, just normal 2-5-1 stuff, right? Things that we even saw last week, the week before. But there are going to be a few spicy surprises. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get warmed up with our 16th note combinations. Today is the last day that we're going to look at the combinations of 16th notes, and we will be reviewing all 16 of them today. I will be moving through them pretty quickly, but remember that on your own time you should spend as much time as you need with each one of these combinations depending on how much trouble it gives you or doesn't, right? So we're going to move through these now, and we're going to say and play each one, and we will also be omitting a few of the really basic ones like number 1, number 3, number 9, the ones that are just downbeats and upbeats, okay? So let's get started on number 2. These are just E's, and we will begin things by playing and saying number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. Let's put it with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. We're going to skip number 3 because those are just upbeats, and we'll be looking at number 4 now. These are stand-alone uhs. Let's practice saying and playing them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we are. Let's put it with the metronome. Same thing, 45 BPM on the upbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's move on to line 5. These are going to be our double note combinations. This is going to be the 1 E, so we'll be thinking of this E as a rebound off of the downbeat. Let's practice saying and playing that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. Let's put it with the metronome at 45 BPM. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to line 6, the E will now become the anticipation of the and. We have E ands. Let's try playing and saying that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and. Let's add the metronome at 45 BPM. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to number 7. These are going to be andas, so the will be rebounding off of the upbeat here. Let's try saying and playing that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a. All right, we're going to add the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bottom of the page, number 8, we'll be looking at the 1 right? So in this case, the is actually going to be anticipating the next downbeat, okay? And so let's practice saying and playing that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, And don't forget that last okay? Let's try putting that with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And don't forget to include that last All right, number 9, eighth notes, we know all about that. Downbeats and upbeats. We're going to skip ahead to number 10. We're going to have our eighth notes that are in between the eighth notes here. Let's go ahead and practice saying and playing that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, and All right, let's put it with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic. All right, that one can be kind of tricky. Remember, take your time on these. We're moving through them today for the sake of brevity in the video, but we will now be looking at number 11 and our very first 3-note combination. Now remember, you're going to want to watch out because number 11 and number 13 get mixed up a lot, as we'll see next week when we start looking at our two-handed warm-ups, but including these combinations, right? So pay special attention to number 11, number 13, and really pay attention to how they feel as opposed to how they look, since they do look similar, all right? So we're gonna have the 1 E and here. Let's practice saying and playing that. 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and, 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to number 12, we'll scooch everything over our 16th note. So now we have the E and We have the anticipation of the upbeat and the rebound off of the upbeat. Let's try it, saying and playing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and All right, and we'll add the metronome. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to number 13. We will now be doing the one and a, right? So watch out, here's that number 13. We're going to be rebounding off of the upbeat and anticipating the downbeat in this one. Let's say and play it. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and we'll put that with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to number 14, everybody's favorite 16th note combination, other than number 10, although very similar. This is a very popular rhythm in ragtime. This is the 1 E, right? And so what's happening is you're anticipating the downbeat with an and then you're rebounding off of that same upbeat with an E, okay? Let's say it and play it. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, 1, 2, 3, 4. And don't forget the at the end there, all right? Let's put that with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we have it. Again, please do not forget the at the end, and we will now be looking at number 15. It might seem arbitrary, but it is important that despite all the fancy syncopation that we can do with 16th notes, that we can hold down 4 16th notes in a row. And so let's go ahead, play and say that. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's put that with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we have it. Now don't forget about number 16, right? Rests. Out of all of these rhythms, of all the times I've taught this to people, the one that is going to hang you up the most, I almost guarantee it, is number 16. Because when our brain is shifted into that top gear of thinking about subdividing 16th notes, in order to shift all the way back down into nothing, right? 16th notes, 8th notes, nothing, silence, right? This is what throws people off. So never underestimate the ability to put the metronome on. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And feel the beat in your body without playing anything, because it is so important. It is not just about what you do play, it's about what you don't play. Remember, if any of these are hanging you up, please take your time on them, saying and playing it, and then when you're comfortable with that, adding the metronome. But now, let's head on back to the piano. For today's minor 7th drill, we will be looking at F sharp minor 7, D flat minor 7, and A flat minor 7. Let's go put those on the keyboard. Let's start by inverting F sharp minor 7 with our right hand. Let's try it in our left hand. Let's do one chord, hands together. Now let's think F sharp Dorian. So F sharp is the ray of E. So we'll be thinking of our E major scale, 4 sharps, except we'll be starting from F sharp and ending on F sharp. Let's try that out. Switch it up and put the chord in your right hand. Alrighty, let's move on to D flat minor with our right hand inversions first. Let's do it in our left hand. And let's do one chord, hands together. Now let's think D flat is the ray technically of B, so we could think C sharp, right, is the ray of B. So we're going to think our B major scale, all 5 black keys, just 2 white keys, B and E. So we're going to now do that scale, but from C sharp to C sharp, or D flat to D flat. And we'll switch it up. Excellent, and that leaves A flat minor today. We're going to start with our right hand inversions. And now let's do hands together, one chord. And let's think about A flat Dorian. A flat is the ray of G flat. So again, we're going to have one of those scales that's all black keys and 2 white keys. We'll now play that, except we'll start on A flat, end on A flat, we'll add the chord in our left hand. And we'll switch. Today's piece is called The Forest from the Trees, and it is a 4-part writing, or also known as counterpoint. Now, we're not going to dive too deeply into all of the rules of counterpoint because that is a rabbit hole that we will not be covering in this series, but I will provide links in the description if you would like to further pursue the nitty-gritty details of counterpoint and 4-part writing. It is pretty wonderful. However, we can understand the big picture of what's happening, and in fact, this tune is made to demonstrate that, and the lyrics kind of describe it, right? So all of these notes are harmony. They all make harmony. I think we know that by now. But each is a line that flows. Each one of these lines is flowing. It has a contour. And yet, what we are about to do, instead of thinking horizontally, is we are going to go in and vertically name what these notes line up in as a chord, right? So for example, number 1 we can see that we are in the key of D, right? So we have two sharps, key of D, and we will be starting with an open D and A in our left hand, and then we have the F sharp and the D in the right hand. So clearly we have our 1. After the 1, we're going to hit the 5-7, which in this key is what? I hope you said A7, because that would be correct. And then the 5-7, instead of leading back to the 1, one thing that you can always substitute the 1 with is its relative minor, right? So we're actually going to see the arrival of the 6 right here. Now, we need to get home, right? We can see that we have, in a few beats, we have some half notes coming up, the end of a phrase, all these notes make harmony, right? And so we need to get back there. What's a great way to get back? And we talked about this last week. Well, what if we used the 2, the 5-7, and then the 1? If you think about the 6, the 2, the 5, and the 1, we have B, then we have E, then we have A, and we have D. So one of the beauties of the 6-2-5-1 is that you're literally moving around the circle root-wise. And then not only are you moving your roots around the circle, but you can notice that there's such limited motion. There's so many common tones or half steps between all of these voicings that it makes it very simple to flow the voices between each other, because they're either not moving or they are moving in half steps and whole steps. Now, the last thing I want to point out about this phrase is that in the 1, notice how it is not a root position. The F sharp is in the bass, and that's very important, because when you have a cadential point like this and you're not at the end of a piece, you don't want to have the do on the bottom. You don't want to make your 1, if you choose to have that there. You don't want to make it in root position, what we would call a perfect authentic cadence, because that's a big deal. To finally arrive back at the root position 1 is something that you want to save for the end, and keep that in mind for when we get to the end, because we may just see that. Continuing on, this is one of the places where I wanted to get a little bit creative. All right, you can see that in that first phrase, it was very textbook, 1 to the 5, and then we walked around the circle, 6, 2, 5, 7, 1. All right, and so the first thing that I said to myself is I would like to think about the minor. All right, I would like to think about the relative minor. So I knew that I wanted to get to that 6. All right, and I thought to myself, okay, well, what is a good chord to lead to the 6? Well, what about, let's step outside of this key just a little bit, all right? Let's really step into and lean into that 6, all right? And let's use its secondary dominant. Let's use the 5 of the 6, which in this case is your F sharp dominant 7. So we have the 5 of the 6, okay? And what I did here is we actually have a mystery chord here in the middle, and then the 5-7 of the 6 again. So what I did is, instead of thinking of another chord, I kind of let the counterpoint speak, right? So I let the voices flow to where they wanted to, and I transitioned between 2 inversions of this chord. And so, you know, I'm sure there is something that we could label this chord as, but I like to just think of it as a transitional state between 2 inversions of the same chord. All right, so this chord is a transitional state. Let's just write TS, a transitional state. What we did here is actually very simple. We wanted to go to the 6, we wanted to use the secondary dominant, and then we sort of just expanded the voices inside of that. Notice how this voice just goes up 1 and then back down. This voice just stays the same. This voice stays the same. And then we do have in the melody this rising melody line. Okay, so very basic, not too complicated. And then moving right along, we need to get back out of the 6, right? So we're going to kind of head back to the major, right? So if we want to get back to a 1, you can never go wrong with the 5-7. And of course that will bring us back to a 1. Notice how that 1 is not in root position, because we don't want to arrive at the perfect authentic cadence yet. Moving right along, a perfectly normal move right after the 1 would be the 4. And now we're going to hint back at this idea, right? Because a good composer always continues their ideas throughout the piece. You don't want to just keep adding characters and adding characters and adding characters without taking some time to develop the story of those characters, right? So we see that there's an A sharp in this next one. We look up where we just were and we say, hey, you know, the 5/7 of the 6 had A sharp, so that's probably what it is, and it absolutely is. And then we find ourselves back on the 6 right there, okay? Now, we are still going to have our interplay between the 4 because we have our 4, and now we're going to lead up to my favorite chord. All right, so this is really like what I wanted to do in this piece, and to be honest, even after consulting a few of my friends to figure out what did I do here, it actually is an ambiguous paradox. So I'm going to tell you the secret. The secret is that I wasn't thinking music theory when I started this piece. I wasn't thinking about 1s and 5/7s and how they function, right? What I thought to myself is, I really like the sound of D, and I really like the sound of B flat, right? Those are 2 major chords that are a major third apart. They're technically not very related. You can think that B flat is related to D minor, or you could think that if you spelled a B flat chord using A sharp as I did, that that A sharp is the leading tone to the relative minor, right? It's a stretch in either way, but that's the thing about music theory. Music theory is not music. Music theory is used to do our best to describe the fantastic magic that is music, right? So I made the music, and then I fit the theory to see exactly what happened here, okay? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to connect D and B flat, and this is how I did it, all right? So leading up to that B flat major, although it's, as you can see, spelled using the key of D, we went to our 1, back to our 4, so far so good, right? And then here's the deal. We haven't gone over this yet, we have seen these, but we have our 7 diminished to this strange B flat chord, right? I'm going to call it B flat. Connect it right back to a 1. Then we have our 2, 5/7. Of course, I'm not only going to give you the spicy chord 1 time, we have it 2 times, and finally we get back to our 1 in root position, which is known as the perfect authentic cadence to close this whole thing out. But now, without further ado, let's listen to The Forest from the Trees. If you enjoyed today's lesson, you can support the Piano Dojo by finding this music on my website at pianodojo.com, or simply subscribing and sharing this channel with anybody who's interested in learning piano. Next week is going to be our last week on minor 7ths. We will be starting 2-handed warm-ups with 16th notes. Until then, happy practicing.